Okay, so if you've ever worked on a really big enterprise app, you know the feeling, right? That massive, tangled front end monolith that just slows everything down. Well, today we're going to dive into a super powerful architectural pattern designed to solve exactly that micro front ends. So let me ask you, are your build times getting longer and longer? Do deployments feel like you're holding your breath, just hoping nothing breaks? Are your teams constantly stepping on each other's toes? If you're nodding along right now, you have felt the pain of a front end monolith. And believe me, this explainer is for you. But to really appreciate the solution, we first need to get real about the problem. We need to diagnose the disease, so to speak. So let's talk about the specific pains that come with having a single massive front-end code base, because that is the beast that micro front-ends are designed to tame. It always starts out so clean, right? A nice, simple React app, but then it just grows into this monster. Pretty soon, builds take forever, and that just kills productivity. A change you make over here in one feature can accidentally break something totally unrelated because everything's so tightly coupled. And deployments? Oh man, they become these high-stakes all-or-nothing events. And trying to scale your teams? It just becomes a nightmare of merge conflicts and endless coordination meetings. So, how do we fix this mess? Well, it turns out the answer was kind of hiding in plain sight on the back end. For years now, developers have been breaking down monolithic backends into microservices. And the brilliant idea behind micro frontends is simply applying that same powerful thinking to the user interface. So what does that actually mean? Well, instead of one giant application, you have a collection of smaller, self-contained applications. They all get composed together to form what looks and feels like a single cohesive user experience. But behind the scenes, each one handles a specific feature or a specific piece of the UI. And this right here, this highlights the most important part of the whole thing: ownership. This isn't just about writing smaller chunks of code. It's about empowering your teams. A single team can truly own a feature, from the database all the way to the pixels on the screen. They can independently develop, build, and deploy their piece of the puzzle without waiting for anyone else. Honestly, this is the easiest way to think about it. If you already get the idea of microservices, independent services with clear boundaries that talk to each other over APIs, then you already get the philosophy here. It's that exact same principle of autonomy and decoupling, just for the UI layer. Okay, so now let's get to the good stuff. Let's see how this whole concept of independence really translates into some major advantages. Because when you embrace this, it fundamentally changes how you build and ship software, and definitely for the better. Your teams can finally work in parallel without blocking each other. You get way faster feedback loops because you're shipping smaller incremental changes. You can even experiment with new tech. One team could use the latest version of React, while another tries out Vue for a new feature. This helps you scale your organization and, crucially, it isolates failures. So a bug in one part of the app doesn't bring the whole thing crashing down. When you put it side by side, the difference is pretty stark. You're basically trading one single, incredibly complex system for multiple, much simpler systems. Instead of one huge team trying to navigate a giant codebase, you have small, focused teams owning their individual applications. That shift from tight coupling to loose coupling is the secret sauce that unlocks all the agility. And the operational benefits? They're huge. In a monolith, every single feature is tied to one big release train. If one part isn't ready, well, everything waits. With micro frontends, the payments team can deploy 3 times a day if they want, while the search team sticks to a weekly schedule. And if something goes wrong, you just roll back that one feature, not the entire application. That is an absolute game changer for stability. All right, so independence is the goal, but integration, that's where the magic happens. So how do you actually take all these separate applications and stitch them together into one seamless website for the user? Let's make this a little more concrete. So the key technology that makes the most popular approach possible today is something called Webpack Module Federation. It essentially allows different, independently built JavaScript applications to share code with each other at runtime. This means your main shell application can dynamically load a micro frontend on the fly without it even being part of the initial download, while also being smart enough to share common things like React so they aren't downloaded twice. Pretty cool, huh? So from a high level, the workflow looks something like this. First, you build a shell or a container app. That's kind of the main frame of your website. Then you have your remote apps for each feature.
You configure module federation to make the shell aware of where those remotes live. And just like that, the shell can pull in and render the payments feature or the bookings feature on demand live in the browser.
Now, as powerful and as cool as this pattern is, I've got to be honest, it's not a silver bullet. It introduces its own kind of operational complexity. So the most important question you can ask is, when should you actually use it?
Look, if you're building a large, complex application with multiple teams that all need to ship features independently, this is a fantastic pattern for long-term health. But if you're a small team building an MVP, the overhead of managing shared state, routing, and consistent styling across all these different apps, it's probably not worth it. Just stick with a simple monolith until those scaling pains become real.
All right, to wrap this all up, micro front ends are basically microservices, but for the UI. Their main goal is to unlock scalability, give teams autonomy, and make deployments way safer. It's an incredibly powerful tool, but it's meant for large, complex systems, and today, Webpack's Module Federation is the modern way to get it done. So I'll leave you with this thought. We've spent the better part of a decade decoupling our backends for speed, for scalability, and for team autonomy. Why in the world should our front end be any different? Maybe it's time to give our UIs the same architectural freedom.